Yo, 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 we are back with another episode of Leaf with the Legends podcast. Today I'm with one of my favorite people in the world, man. I'm with Big Cuz. I'm with a Louisiana legend, tech entrepreneur, co-founder of LifeTagger. Man, my dog, man, Kendrick Pullen, aka KP.
Man, what's going on? Really appreciate being here, bro. I'm hyped too, man. And I was thinking about some like beginning thing of wisdom to drop on people, and I was just like, the only thing I could think about, man, I feel special. I feel for those who are spiritual, I'm not really that spiritual, but I feel blessed. I think when you start off as a big cousin, but then your cousins do so much that y'all just like cousins, and then that's a really good feeling. And I think a lot of times people try to keep that hierarchy of like, oh, that's my big cousin, that's my little cousin. And I'm just like, man, I learned so much from you. I learned so much more from you than I think that I'm ever giving you in the game. So, just a word of advice to everybody out there. It's like, when you're young, yeah, you can have that big cousin, big bro, little bro, big sis, little sis scenarios and stuff like that. But after a while, man, you just gotta open yourself up to hearing what other people are saying, no matter what the hierarchy might have been in your family structure or in your friendship structure.
Man, hey, that's a great way to start it off, brother. That's a great way to start it off. And I appreciate you. It's always been nothing but love. And like you said, it went from more so like a big cuz to more like a big bro to a colleague, a mentor,
Right.
a confidant. So, I think it's very
And
special, the relationship and the connection that we have. So I think let's dive into that though a little bit. Like not just you and
okay.
I, but just the Scott family in general. Like, can you just kind of give a little bit of background and context as to like what the Scott family, like who the Scott family is, and like how
Man,
connected and successful
that
we are?
what's crazy? The longer I live, the more special it becomes, right? Like as a youngster, I thought that kind of everybody's family operated like that.
Right.
But I've met very few people whose family operate like our family operates. Like I always think about our family being the model for collaboration, even in like the business world, like how we collaborate as a family to do business, to impact the world, to change the world, to impact each other, for all to try to make us all become better humans. The empathy that you learn being in this family, the ability to have a voice. I think it's just I started off thinking like, dang, like everybody's family is like this, and then I got around other people's families, and they do not operate the way our family operates, and I think it's very special at times. I think I tell people all the time our ability to have tough conversations with each other. I
Mhm.
think that that's really what sets us apart. I think we're always finding our way to find out how to have those tough conversations with love and with empathy, but also it's like you still got to have them. And so, growing up, we came up in a family. Our family has run a scholarship foundation. I am turning 42 this year, so the scholarship foundation started the year I was born. So it'll make 42 this year. So I can always keep a track on that. And I think the crazy part is the other part that a lot of people that we don't actually talk about as a family. Like we've given out scholarships for 40 of the 42 years. And of the folks that we've given out scholarships to, only two people have not graduated from college
Wow. I don't think I
in
knew
the
that stat.
entire 40-year history. Yeah, and I think that's something that's something we don't really lean into. So, we think about how many families that we might have changed just by allowing, making sure doing what we could to, get folks to getting to college. And so, what I will say for all those that are listening, like our Christmases are like the weirdest, uh, funnest times ever because I don't think anybody else has business meetings, has an agenda for like all the days of Christmas. I don't think any of us have that in our bag, but we grew up sitting in business meetings, asking the tough questions like who's going to coach the basketball team. Like that's an inside joke. I'm just I was just going like we grew up in that, but also grew up in a family. I think we have my grandfather inducted into the Louisiana Black Hall of Fame. My aunt inducted into the Louisiana Black Hall of Fame. My uncle inducted into the Louisiana Black Hall of Fame, Civil Rights Hall of Fame. So all these folks, like that legacy of where we come from, a social, not just social impact, but social agitation. Being on the front lines of fighting for things that are important to community, and then coming in at it all from a very much a faith-based infrastructure. And so I think, yeah, so it's a weird pie that we like, it's like a weird gumbo that we built. I'm just using Louisiana terms out here, but I think it works for us as a family. And I don't know if I could ever do anything different at Christmas. I'm like, hey, everybody knows where I'm going to be that time around Christmas, and I actually feel it on the inside if I'm not there, if I miss, or if I'm going to be late, or if I can't do it all. Like if I can't be there all the days, I'm like, dang, like I missed. And so yeah, I can go on and on because the other part of it is like we got that Baptist minister in us, so we can always talk for like a long time. So you gotta sometimes you just gotta stop and be like, all right, let's get on to the next thing.
I got you. I got you. But no, no, that's a great, that's just for context, just to kind of level set. I think that's great. And you mentioned Louisiana a number of times, and you weren't born in Louisiana. You were born in Maywood, Illinois. So is that where your love from the like for the Bears came? Like what was like how, so let's talk about your upbringing and like where that come from.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Like one, die pack die. I want to say that because I know there's a lot of people from Wisconsin that's going to be listening.
You gonna make me lose some
We
subscribers, man.
yeah, I know, I know. But no, here's the really funny thing about how I became a Bears fan. My parents originally are from Louisiana. They moved during the Great Migration type stuff. They moved to Chicago. My dad moved up there to pursue other opportunities, and he actually went to California first, and then went to Chicago, because there was a very good chance that Oakland could have been the place. My dad told me stories all the time. Like he used to work at the Oakland Coliseum. He used to clean the Coliseum after games, after Warriors games. And so he always thought that his future was out in California, and most of his siblings still live in California now. But he went to Chicago because he was close with some of his cousins, and some of his cousins lived in Chicago. So he made the trek to Chicago, and my parents were big Walter Payton fans. So growing up in North Louisiana, Jackson State was probably one of the, like, you had Grambling and then you had Jackson State. Those were the closest HBCUs. But Walter Payton, what he was doing at Jackson State, like was getting all the attention around the time that they were, coming into adulthood. So he got drafted by the Chicago Bears, and because he got drafted by the Chicago Bears, my parents immediately became Bears fans because they were big fans of Walter Payton. And so they started watching the Bears because Walter Payton probably, arguably the, number one running back in NFL history, top five, you can argue top five. And that's where that them rooting for the Chicago Bears happened. And I used to sit on the couch with my dad, watch Bears games. It came on WGN. I jokingly tell the story like my dad is like really was skinny like me, but he just had like a beer belly. So like I literally go watch Bears games with him and like get him a beer, and you could set the beer on top of his stomach, and it was just chill. It was like some of the memories that I have of my father as a kid are like watching Bears games with him telling me to go get him a beer while he's laying on the couch, and I could just set the beer on his stomach, and that made him happy. the beer being in that position while we watch Bears games as father son.
That's dope. I love it. I love it. So how old were you when you all ended up moving to Louisiana, and what was that transition like?
So I was about I just had finished first grade. So I was like
Oh,
six,
okay.
7 when we moved. And so we moved to Baton Rouge. My parents made a decision that they wanted to be closer to their parents as their parents got up there in age. Um, and so we moved back to Louisiana from Chicago, from Maywood. And yeah, and I got to Louisiana, and I like Louisiana is the weirdest experience. Like I tell people that's like the first time I ever thought about what it meant to like looking back at it now. This is my first time ever thinking about what education gaps are and like how you get educated, how educational infrastructure is different in different places. I moved from Illinois to Louisiana, and I I tell people all the time I didn't go to second grade. So when I got to Louisiana, I basically tested out of everything that they were doing in second grade. I had learned in first grade. So they moved me to third grade. So I went from kindergarten first to third. And then we moved. My parents decided to move, and I had to switch schools that next school year. And the lady was like, "Hey, he's already like different from like being from Illinois. He talks different, yada yada yada. Like we need to just put him back in his regular class." Um, and so I tell like people get promoted, gifted promoted, skip grades and stuff like that. Like I was socially put back into a grade that had nothing to do with how smart I was. I went like kindergarten first, third, fourth, fifth, and I never really did second grade. So, but I appreciate it because it allowed me to graduate the class of 2000. But then I also think about it, if I really tried, I could have graduated high school when I was 15 if I really wanted to.
That's wild. That's wild. You would have been up there with Q. Q graduated when he was 16.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's wild. Damn.
yeah. Thanks, mom and dad.
Yeah.
But I actually think it was the right decision though. And
Yeah.
so
Oh, for sure. For
thank
sure.
you, mom and dad.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, uh, I know you mentioned, you watch football. Like, what other sports were you interested in, growing up?
Yeah, I tried to hoop. I want like I tell people all the time, like I was the first person, really trying to do that crossover drop stuff in the family, and then y'all took it to a whole nother level. Y'all got really good at it. I came I started hooping at the beginning of the Allen Iverson, like I was a teenager at that time, and Nick Van Exel, one of like I think that's a Wisconsin legend. Nick Van
Absolutely.
Exel was like one of my favorite. He was my favorite NBA player because of how he dribbled, but how he just was manipulating things in the open court, and he just made it look so. He just made the point guard position so fun. I felt like he was like the next incarnation on the Lake Show. Like he was just a smaller version of Magic Johnson to me.
Yeah.
Um, and I never had a lot of love for Michael Jordan or J Bone as y'all call him. I spent so many summers up there. I have the Milwaukee lingo.
You hit it. You hit it.
Um,
You hit it around the
but
head.
that
Boom.
yeah, yeah. But to me, that's the contrarian in me will always see like, the person behind the scenes that never really got a lot of the credit for like being great. And to me, Scottie Pippen was my favorite Bull. And Nick Van Exel was like my favorite basketball player. Even so much like I had the Nick Van Exels with the half black, half white Reeboks Nick Van Exels. I'm still like I'm looking for them. I think I'm gonna buy them too. But they was a son of a mug to keep clean though. But yeah, so I think that view of sports really informed how I wanted to be as a professional. Like I really didn't want to have all the shine and be in the forefront, but you need that second superstar. That's I don't want to say Scottie Pippen was a glue guy, but he just did all of the things necessary so that the Bulls won championships, like and in the backdrop with the backdrop of Michael Jordan. So I think the times that I've really worked well in scenarios is when I've had a Michael Jordan and I've been able to be a Scottie Pippen in the backdrop. And I think that that's kind of informed like how was informed a lot of success that I've had. But also, you know, sometimes you get in your ego and you want to be that person. And those are some of the times where like I didn't do well as a professional, you know, trying to be, you know, the on Front Street and as the face of something. Because, you know, like, you know, we all have things that we deal with. And personally, to me, that's always too much pressure. That's always too much pressure, like too much, you know, so I try to be Scottie Pippen, but I promise to all the folks that I've worked with that I've been their Scottie Pippen. I promise I'm not going to go on a tour and start talking crazy about you.
Yeah, I mean, but sports, it just shows you like sports really reveals, you know, your true character, who you are, you know, as a person. There's
Right.
so many different values and lessons that, you know, that are transferable, you know, in my case, you know, from the court, you know, into the business world. So I'm glad you hit on that. Like that's definitely deep, definitely deep. So you end up going to Scotlandville, right?
Yeah, look,
Okay.
hey, here's I want to say some I want to say some things. Like Scotlandville is a phenomenal athletic powerhouse now as well as academic powerhouse. When I
Hold
was
on.
there,
I gotta
it was
cut you off. I
academic
gotta cut you
powerhouse.
off real quick. So shout out, you said athletic powerhouse. I got to shout out to a Milwaukee
Yeah.
legend, Reese Beekman. Reese Beekman. He went to Scotlandville, won 3 state championships, and then he's entering the draft combine for out of Virginia. So had to throw that in there. You know,
Nice.
Milltown love.
Nice. Hey, look, hey man, we gonna get them there. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? We gonna get them there.
yeah.
But I think about like during the time when I was in high school, you know, we were a magnet school, so we didn't get a basketball team until my junior year of high school. And that first year, we went 0 and 32. Um, and so and so we didn't win a
Y'all couldn't
game.
even beat the school of the blind down the street.
They knew exactly how many steps to get to the rim. Um, but we didn't play in a, you know, we played in a tough conference. So it wasn't like we was playing in like, you know, we were playing against, you know, the Capitol Highs where, you know, Simone Augustus, you know, came from Capitol High. You know, we was playing against the Stroma Highs. Like we had folks in the thing that, you know, that had programs that was built and established, you know, and so, you know, my senior year, I was kind of like, man, this ain't gonna be what takes me to the next level. Like I started focusing a little bit more on track, but then I really started focusing in on academics, and you know, I was always a great student. I knew I could go to college for free with my mind, so there was no like pressure that said like I had to do some sports to get to the next level, you
Right.
know. So you know, I ran track in high school, so I competed at state in track and field, the 800, the mile, the 2 mile. So it was like it was like so many other options out there that I was like, okay, like I love to hoop, but also like I knew, you know when you peak, right? And so you know when you peak, and you kind of gotta like respect the game enough to be like, hey, look, if I'm doing this, and I didn't love it, like I didn't love it like people who go on to play in college, and I knew, and thank God, because once I got to college, there was no way, and on Al Gore's internet, on in heaven or hell or whatever, that I was going to be able to survive on a college campus with the introduction of, you know, thousands and thousands of women
Yeah.
that I was going to be able to keep a focus. And like I didn't have that discipline at the time, and that's really, thinking about that. I had a high school teacher who I ran into recently, and she was just like, I follow you, you know, what little you do online, I follow you online, and I'm just really proud of you, you know, as one of my former students. And she gave me this advice. She told me discipline is never the enemy of enthusiasm. So if you just find some discipline, you'll go very far in this world. And I didn't really like, I always kept it like in my little senior book that she signed. That's what she wrote in my senior book. And I take that quote with me everywhere, that like that if you can, discipline is not the enemy of enthusiasm. Like when people are telling you like, hey, you have that energy, but you got to have that energy within this structure or within this process. I didn't get that at first early on in life or in career. And then when I finally kind of adopted that as a motto, like really like as a mantra of like how I wanted to approach life and career, that like you could have, you can be enthusiastic and someone telling you like, hey, kind of, make sure you put it into this thing. And it also got me wanting to learn about, processes. Like, so you want to have these energy and processes that you're doing or processes that you're developing. Like, you got to have that discipline, but I had to learn like, what are those processes too? So I think, getting an opportunity to like, I have, project management certification. Like I worked at a community college district where I had built processes to um, go from a decentralized organization to a centralized organization. I had to build all those processes out. And so that became like really fun for me, and then really informed my next chapter, which was starting a tech company, LifeTagger. So yeah, but going back to Scotlandville, I will say this: like, I kudos to Scotlandville right now. They just won. The girls and the boys just won state championships in track and field. And so they whatever they're doing over there, they building a factory over there, and I love it. But they haven't sacrificed the academics too, because all those kids are going. You talked about your guy, like going to UVA is not. You can't just be any kind of student and go to UVA, right?
For
Like
sure.
we know that. Like you can't just be a minimum qualifier and go to UVA. So shout out to Reese, and I hope he does very well in the combine and is he hears his name called in the next couple of weeks.
That's love. That's love. That's love, man. So, okay, so that's Scotlandville. Let's jump into it. You kind of alluded to it a little bit, man. But let's talk about them college days, man. UNO. Let's
And yeah, college is crazy, man. I originally thought, I was gonna go to college. I thought I wanted to major in political science because I either wanted to be an attorney or I wanted to work in politics. Um, I ended up watching the show The West Wing, and West Wing was a TV show, and they really just had like this campaign staff, and then they became like they ran a candidate for president, and the candidate won, and they all worked in the White House. They were all dealing with this like these huge problems, trying to solve these huge problems, but in the most like matter of fact and plain way. And I thought that was fascinating to like get into that. And so I started my first and I'll tell you this, and I'll put this on record. So I got accepted into a lot of colleges that people are like, why did you pick UNO? And the story behind picking UNO was I was deciding on some other colleges. Like I really want, like Howard was my number one school. I got accepted into Cornell. I got accepted into Yale. Don't tell a lot of people. We go, for your listening audience, that may be one of the bigger regrets of my life. Um, obviously I got accepted into all Louisiana schools. And for as much as we talk about family and stuff like that, in my immediate family, I think I was the first kind of kid to graduate with some fanfare about college and actually, college completion. Like my sister went to Southern. My older brother, he didn't go to college. Well, he attempted it, but he really didn't go to college like that. And then my younger brother, went to the military and now as a fireman. So I think in that time period, and my mother never went to college. So in that time period, like I didn't have a lot of people talking to me about like scholarships. Like, and I also thought, my grades were really good. You know, I was a national merit scholar, all this other stuff. Yeah, I just thought I was just gonna like people were just gonna give me money to go to college, and that's not how it works. Like you still have to apply and do all the other stuff. So I was kind of late to the game on the scholarship thing, but I got accepted into some good schools, and I was trying to make my decision, and you had a little bit more flexibility around when you made your decision to attend or not. But some good friends of mine from high school, they were all going to UNO, and they were going down to like go on like a little campus visit and do like an orientation. And this was like right after we had graduated. So it was like May. And we went down there, man. And I had been to New Orleans a couple of times, but I had never been to New Orleans as like a free man. Like as an 18-year-old, no parents around, like just down there with your boys. And I had the time of my life. And there was a woman that like I had met some years back, and I ran into her, and she was going to UNO, and I was like, man, like these are all the signs that maybe I should just go to UNO. And then so I was just like, well, let me just go apply. So I'm literally down there where my friends are going to orientation. I go over to the admissions, I apply, I get accepted on the spot. And they're like, and you know, you could use your top scholarship, which is a scholarship where, you know, if you graduate Louisiana with like a certain GPA and a certain ACT score, they pay for you to like they pay for your tuition if you go to a Louisiana school. Um, so I got accepted on the spot. Like they was like, you can join this orientation with your friends if you wanted to. And like from then on, it was kind of like all I could think about was New Orleans, Bourbon Street, this campus. You know, I had never been in a place with like 15,000 people because at that time, like UNO's population was, I mean, student population was probably about 17,000. That was at its height, kind of like before Katrina, like it was growing, and it was affordable, and I wasn't have to pay much. So I kind of checked all the boxes. And you know, that's really how I made my college decision, which probably is like the worst way to make your college decision. I'm not gonna tell anybody on this podcast that that's how you should make your college decision, but it was the combination of my good friends from high school going there, uh,
The young lady.
women,
Yeah.
and the ease of being able to get alcohol. So like all those things just factored in. And I thought school would be easy, right? Like that the easy part. So I started as a political science major. Fast forward, I started as a political science major, and then I had a conversation with one of our aunts, and she told me that our grandfather's archives were at the University of New Orleans, and I had not known that. And so um you know, I don't know how PG or not PG, but you know, like our grandfather's archives was on the fourth floor of the library.
Mhm.
The only reason why I would go to the fourth floor of the library was because it was like quiet. I'll say that. It was quiet. You could do some really good studying on the fourth floor of the library. So like I haven't gone to the fourth floor of the library, had not known that in this time period of me studying on the fourth floor of the library, like my my grandfather's archives were there, and it was like all of his meetings with like the Attorney General Robert Kennedy, all around, you know, getting the right to vote for folks in East Carroll Parish. And so I had not known that that stuff was there until I had this conversation with my aunt. So I actually went and I actually dug into like started like kind of going into some of the archives, and I was just fascinated by how connected the Black folks were in Louisiana around this rallying around civil rights, getting Black people the right to vote, um, getting Black people like, you know, no Black person in East Carroll Parish had voted literally since like really right after Reconstruction ended. And you know, Jim Crow raised its head, you know, and the rules of, you know, you had to have a white person vouch for you to register to vote and all these other things. So I'm just reading about how my grandfather was going to all these meetings, putting his life on the line, you know, putting his family in danger at times. And I switched my major to history. and I met a couple of the history professors. Shout out to Dr. Joe Lewis Caldwell, Dr. Raphael Casimir, Dr. Jonathan Loxton, I'm sorry, Joseph Loxton, like all these guys, like, so the first two guys that I named were Black men in the history department who, who either knew my grandfather or knew of my grandfather. And so, and Dr. Casimir was like the first, he integrated the University of New Orleans and then became a professor there. So, and he integrated, so he was in college in, early 50s, like that's what he did. And so having him as kind of my history Sherpa, like he just was really like he couldn't believe that, he thought I came because I was Reverend Scott's grandson. And I'm like, nah, man, that's not even why I was here, man. It's New Orleans, right? And so, him and Dr. Caldwell, they really took me under their wing, like they did numerous Black students there. And I talk about Dr. Earl Bryant, who is an English literature, who taught African American literature, and Dr. Nee Olsen Diary, who taught African American literature. So these all professors that kind of shaped me because they were all built into this unique history of like Louisiana history with civil rights. And then I was effectively able to basically concentrate in that as my history major. So I always tell people it was really cool. I got to actually study my grandfather as a major in college.
That's dope. That's fire, bro. Damn. Yeah, I didn't know that Papa Scott's archives was at UNO. So that's damn,
Yeah,
I'm learning something
yeah,
right now.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, Auntie Himian was like, she has a way with words. She probably was like, "You fool! All you're doing is out there partying and stuff. And did you know that your grandfather's archives are right there on the fourth floor of the library?" And
Was
and
this Aunt
so
Jay?
it was no, this is Auntie, the
Oh
historian
yeah,
of the
okay, yeah,
family.
yeah, history, yeah, yeah, okay, okay, yeah, yeah.
Because at that time she was researching to write the book.
To write the book, gotcha. Makes sense, makes sense. So you're in New Orleans, you switch your major, you end up graduating with a history major, but then you stay in New Orleans. So August, say 20.
So
Oh no, go ahead.
So no, I didn't finish in 4 years because again, it's still New Orleans. It's
Right.
still everything that happens in New Orleans. Um and so, joined the greatest fraternity in the world, joined Alpha Phi Alpha my sophomore year. Um, I talk about it all the time. Like I almost got kicked out of school my freshman year. We threw a little party, it got out of hand. Um so I almost got kicked out of school my freshman year. The only thing that they would let me do my sophomore year, they were like, "Hey, you need mentors." And like, these are some of the most outstanding Black men on campus. So I could have joined, I probably could have joined any fraternity because I was that popular.
Yeah.
But I joined Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, one of the best decisions I made, but also added a whole nother layer of extra into what I was trying to accomplish in college. And so I'm in college, and at the time, I'm working full time at Circuit City. I have one last semester of college. I have like basically I think I needed 18 hours to graduate. So it's like six classes. I need six classes to graduate. It's the fall. My plan was to graduate that fall, hang out, stack my money at Circuit City. I became manager. And so, at that time, I was making almost $40,000 a year as a 24-year-old, which my mom was making $40,000 a year as at that time. So it was like, my mom probably was making a little bit more than that, but like I was earning almost as much as my mother was earning,
Yeah.
as a 24-year-old. And so uh Hurricane Katrina happened, because I'm trying to finish that semester, and we're going back in the fall. I had I had an amazing summer. Going back, I just need to knock out these classes. My goal is like graduate. I was going sit tight that spring semester, because it was fall. I was going to sit tight that spring semester, chill, stack my money, And then I was gonna move to DC to go work. Like I was still wanting to go work in politics.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to go work on the Hill, and my girlfriend at the time, she worked on the Hill already. She had graduated like that, and she worked on the Hill. She had moved to DC to work on the Hill. So like that was my whole plan. Like it was like that. Let me do that, and I'm graduating. Then Hurricane Katrina hits, and it's crazy. Like Hurricane Katrina hit, and everything changed. And I got to see the best and worst of humans, and like thankfully I evacuated like early enough. Like I wasn't gonna, and I tell people all the time, as people were shaming folks for like, why didn't they just leave? Well, like 2 weeks earlier, we had all just evacuated. They called a mandatory evacuation for the whole city. And we had left like maybe 2, 3 weeks earlier for some hurricane that was supposed to hit that didn't hit. So you gotta understand, people don't have like money like that to go and just keep grabbing everything, go get a hotel for a couple of days in Baton Rouge or somewhere else, or like you just didn't have that thing. And I remember vividly that mandatory evacuation. We got stuck in traffic. I was sitting in traffic for like 12 hours. It took me 12 hours to get from New Orleans to Baton Rouge. It was really like an hour.
Wow.
And so, and I had my little brother with me, and he was like really like, oh, I'm not gonna drive. So, it was like it was like this crazy, it's like this crazy experience. So like I was exhausted, and I literally was like, hey man, I'm gonna stay. I'm gonna throw a hurricane party. Because I lived on the second level of a fourplex. We lived on the second level. You have been to the fourplex. You have got a chance to visit the 2027 General Taylor Street, which people still talk about to this day.
Legendary.
Yeah, look, there's a Facebook memory that pops up right before Hurricane Katrina, where one of my friends had, and, this is the beginning stages of Facebook, was like a party at KP's crib, 2027 General Taylor Street. I had like 400 people that showed up for that party, and something should have went off in my head right there, that like social media was going to actually be a thing, like that made it a thing. So yeah, Hurricane Katrina hit. I was gonna throw a hurricane party and just chill. I remember going to work and everybody talking about we'll just be back in like 2 or 3 days, so like don't even trip. And the same aunt who told me about the archives at UNO called me, and she was like, I lived through Hurricane Hugo. The worst decision I ever made was not evacuating. It's supposed to be a category 4 or 5. Like get your important documents and leave.
Mhm.
Uh, so that's what I did. Like I grabbed my important documents. Took probably about 3 or 4 days worth of clothes, and I left. And I went up to Baton Rouge for the first the storm portion of it. And then, we was getting reports, we was hearing things that things were getting bad. I had a 504 phone number, so like nothing was really working with my phones. And so shout out to that Ready Link Sprint that allowed you to do the little walkie-talkie Sprint, like they had, like, Sprint merged with Nextel, so they just
Yep.
dropped like the Sprint phone that had the little chirp too.
Yep.
So shout out to that. And I was able to contact some folks and kind of figure some stuff out. And I told my mom, I was like, well, I'm just gonna go to Dallas. I need to like clear my head. And one of my good friends from college, he had moved to Dallas right after he graduated, and he was like, man, you should just come out here, clear your head, yada yada yada. So I go out there, and here's how gullible I am, Khalid. Like I go out there, and I go to a campus, like I go to the University of Texas Arlington where he works. Like my guy is working on campus, and it's 30,000 students. And I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to go back to. I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to go back to UNO. Like we get information that the school's flooded, like all this stuff, like online classes was a thing, but it really wasn't a thing. Like took an online class. You took online classes when when you like they didn't
Yeah.
have the infrastructure in place for online classes back then.
Right.
So man, I get out there and I'm just Like, whoa, it's a lot of freaking people here. And yeah, I got on that campus and it was me and there was some other of my frat brothers and friends from UNO that had like relocated to Dallas. I had just stopped off on the interstate and found this like there was this hotel called the Witten Inn. And anybody that's listening to this when I share it and you get to this point, shout out to the Witten Inn. Man, shout out to the Witten Inn because they really took care of us. Like we basically I would say half the hotel was occupied by people I told about because they were accepting like the FEMA vouchers for hotel stays. And so, they had availability. They were decent hotel rooms. And, um, me, quite a few of my friends, we had the we had the Whitney and popping. And, um, so I say all of that because like this is the first time like not only was it just folks that I went to school with, but I tell people all the time like I had to grow up because I was running a circuit city, and so I had like all these employees who were asking me like, what are they supposed to do for work?
Yeah.
Like, what are they supposed to be doing? And I'm 24. I'm like 23. You know what I'm saying? It's 2000. It's 2005. I'm 23. Like I don't know how you relocating your family. I don't know anything about that. Like I don't have any kids. I don't have a family. I don't, I really only have to take care of me. So all of these people that had relocated to Dallas, they was like, hey, where are we going to work? How are we going to get a paycheck? How are we going to do all that stuff? So I started working really hard in the midst of all the fun I was trying to have. I started working really hard on trying to figure out how to get them the things that they needed post Katrina, right? So I ended up doing one semester at the University of Texas Arlington. I went to class on Mondays and Wednesdays. I was able to do 12 hours at the University of Texas Arlington. I was able to do 6 hours online at the University of New Orleans through their virtual thing, and that's how I finished college. And that's how I finished college. Uh, and so I went to school Mondays and Wednesdays at the University of Texas Arlington from 8 a.m. to basically to 3 o'clock p.m. to get that stuff done. And then I worked full time Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at Circuit City. Running a department at Circuit City in the Dallas area. So that was my thing, all while trying to be a 23-year-old in a new city, new surroundings. Um, different flavor of different flavors of young ladies that I had never been acquainted with before. And so it was like some good time. It was a lot of stress. It was some good times, but the thing is, like, I go back to that discipline not being the enemy of enthusiasm. And I think that that's when I really started to like think about that, because I really had people's lives and livelihoods on the line. So I had to figure out how to make sure they got paid. And then, Circuit City did something very weird. So they just took like your last 2 weeks of what you worked before Katrina, and they used that as as your quote unquote, like how much they should pay you every 2 weeks until we found a place for you. Well, if you were on vacation or, it was back to school time. So, I had a lot of people that were in and out, like doing things. So, that check might not have been their strongest check. So I was one of the people that advocated, like, no, we have to go back and look at what their average income was like for the previous 2 months. And that's what they need to be getting paid, because that's a more accurate benchmark on how much they were getting paid as opposed to what those 2 weeks showed.
Mm. Man, no, we had come down to New Orleans and literally like a couple months before that we came down for that Mardi Gras, in February, and then August hit, and I remember being at my, being up at Stevens Point, one of my guys' crib, and just watching CNN and just seeing all the catastrophe and whatnot. So I'm glad all of our family was fortunate enough to make it out of there, and kind of bounce back, so to speak. But that was a crazy time, bro. I know that was like them couple of days,
Yeah,
like when y'all phones wasn't working and stuff. Like that was scary.
it's wild, man. But also, tech shine through on that, because if you were able to get somewhere to get to internet, like you could connect with people, like that's that's when I saw like the power of what Facebook could be too.
Yeah.
Like I'm still in a group chat with like all of the folks that like, that were alphas in New Orleans that had to disperse for Katrina. We started that group messaging thing back in 2005. It is still active to this day. And that's crazy around how you can stay connected with folks. But the last little thing I'll say about Hurricane Katrina, it was like there's a lot of stigmatism, like, oh, people, like, they getting over these Katrina people getting over, yada yada yada. But I'm just like, man, if you lost everything you ever owned, which I basically lost everything that I ever owned besides my important documents and the 3 outfits that I took with me. I lost almost everything. Almost everything else. Like they were able to get back into so Katrina happened in August. I wasn't able to get back into my place of residence until November, like Thanksgiving. And somebody had to sneak me in to do it. And so I tell people like, oh, how much should somebody give you if you lose everything in a natural disaster that you had no, like you had no control over? Like you lost everything. Like people from 2005, like they don't have memories. They don't have their high school photos. I used to have this really cool collage pictures of like all the cool people that I met in college. I take a picture of them and I make this collage. And so I lost that. It was like a lot of memories. I love that damn collage. But you can't put a value on that sentimental. I'm joking about it, but a lot of people are like, oh man, like they got over, they getting FEMA checks and like all that stuff. But like you didn't have anything. Like if somebody took everything from you, like what should you get?
Right.
Like how much is too little? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like what's enough? And I hate that people pocket watch like that around stuff that they have never experienced and will not ever have to experience.
Right. Yeah. That's 100 for sure. For sure. For sure. So let I want to dive into LifeTagger now. So like let's talk about, what LifeTagger is and how you and another one of our first cousins co-founded it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really came from a conversation that me and Marlon was having about being better partners in our marriages. We wanted to be better partners, and we were talking one day. We were talking about how like your spouse or significant other or your partner. I try to make this as far as friendly to like the new language that we're using. Like, so, your partner sends you a message, at 9 o'clock in the morning asking you to do something on the way home. And throughout time, messaging is evolving a little bit more, but it used to be very static. It used to just be send out. Like you send something out and they either get it and respond or they don't get it and respond, right? Or they get it and don't respond. And so we want to kind of find a way to where those messages and those emails and all those things that just go into like your spam folder or you lose track of or lose sight of, like how do we better give you a context to send that? And sometimes time isn't the best, like just a send now isn't the best option. So we were talking about that and he was like, hey, I built my wife this little tool, this little app where instead of like sending me that at 9 o'clock, she can send that message and attach it to a location like Walmart. And if I need to like pick up some milk or pick up some diapers or something like that on the way home, I get close to that Walmart. I get this message that says, pick up diapers, pick up milk, and it's even a picture of it. So I can't mess that up. So like that was the North Star, was like, how do we make it easy for you to communicate with the people that are important to you, right? Like how do we sharpen that communication? And then I got to think like, dang, like businesses want to communicate with people the same way. Like they want to know the best moment to communicate with you. They're spending millions and billions of dollars to figure out how do we best communicate with you for you to take action. And so that's how like the North Star of what we built. Like we like to say now, it's like we want a business to be able to send you the right message or start the right course of action or workflow We want them to be able to send that right message, right workflow at the right moment, so that you're more likely to take advantage of it or engage with it. And so internally, that became our North Star. It was like we can simplify communication by making sure you get it in the moment that you need it the most. And so we built a whole tech platform under that premise. And how we do it is, your phone has quite a few um, signals. Like they're constantly doing GPS. There's constantly like doing your location. It's constantly, you're constantly being joining Wi-Fi networks. You're constantly near Bluetooth. Like people have their Bluetooth on because they're using earbuds and all those other things now. You're close to another signal, like your phone can hear. So like, it's like they can hear the music that you're playing. So you're close to like audio. And so, what started off as was like, okay, we just do this as kind of like location-based, geolocation type stuff. And we were like, no, it's like these are all of these signals your phone is trying to detect. What if we just build a platform that allowed a business, if you opted in, to actually put messages on any of those signals? And when you get near that signal, you get the message because that's the right moment for you. So we started building that, and there's been a lot of highs, a lot of lows. I tell people like my life is really just marred in like like pandemic level events, right? So like the first big pandemic level event was Hurricane Katrina. The next time it's like we got our first little VC funding, and we were like, all right, we brought the whole team to South Carolina, did this big team retreat. We had about 70%, like we had like almost close to, maybe about 750, almost $1 million in revenue booked in events. And then the pandemic starts and people can't go outside. So it's like we built this whole thing for like, so we lose about 70, 80% of our revenue that we have booked because everything is canceled. So now we're trying to like pivot and find our way, and like, okay, so let's focus in on audio because everybody's listening to podcasts now. Everybody is doing this. Like, let's focus in on audio, and which allowed us to build a really great feature. Like we have a feature where if you're near, like if people get near start listening to the Leaf with the Legends podcast, like we can actually send them calls to action while they're listening, and it doesn't interrupt their listening experience. So we started building in on that, thinking like, okay, that's got to be the next thing because that's where the money is going to be right now. But also that's a very high tech component that a lot of people aren't going to just willingly jump on. And people try to build their business on the back of small businesses, and that usually is a recipe for failure. Like we weren't taking the time to sit back and listen to who our ideal customer was going to be. Like we weren't building like any of that infrastructure. We were just in this mode of like, hey, we got this money. We need to like sell it to anybody that's listening. And we can figure out all the other stuff on the fly. And like sometimes you just gotta take a step back. And like that pandemic, we started building things that we thought were cool, and we were just bleeding through cash. So then we had to slow down and be like, okay, we got to start building the things that people will buy. And I think that that's where we've arrived at now, because now, like we're back into the conference and event space. We've added new signals that your phone detects now with the ability to tap to pay. NFC and RFID have become like a very mainstream thing now. So like we can deliver content like, through RFID and NFC bands, like wristbands, or, even those machines that you tap to pay with your card. We can have those machines deliver content back to you if we wanted to. So, we just started thinking about where the world was going, and we started listening, and that's been the thing that's like had us grow the most. The fact that we started listening and only building things that people would buy, and that's been the catalyst for the growth that we've experienced. That's been the way we've been able to, get the customers that we have. And that's what's keeping us like moving us out of the tier where we're like, we're getting that credibility where we can work with like, excuse me, like with larger, with larger customers. I'm really thankful. We just earlier this year we signed a deal with Armada Development, which is a real estate development firm. And they do probably have about 40 properties across the country. And so we launched a pilot to where, we did something simple. We put refrigerator magnets on people's on people's in people's apartment complex units. And so they can just walk up to their refrigerator magnet and they can tap their phone on the refrigerator magnet and they can pay their rent, or they can schedule a maintenance request, or they can, get communications from the apartment complex. So something like small that, like it's some things that you don't think about, but how many people out here would love to just walk to their refrigerator, tap their phone, and then they automatically get into their rent portal to pay their rent without having to log in,
Yep.
like remember what your password, like have to find the website, log in, do all the steps that you have to take, or something, there's a maintenance request that you need to make. All you got to do is walk to your refrigerator and tap the refrigerator basically, and then you can start your maintenance request. So it was something that we had thought about, like, wow, like that's something really simple that we could do. And the results have been very positive around how it's being able to engage the residents into like making it easier for them to do the things so that they get better reviews, so that they can lease up faster, so that people are saying really good things about the apartment complex. But the bigger thing is, it's like it allowed us to land there, and then three started off with three. We'll be in seven probably before the end of the year, and then eventually into 30 by the end of 2025. And so you look at it like that, like that's a blueprint of how you scale, your company and the product and the vertical. And it's something that, like not a lot of people were doing. And, the value side for the apartment complex is like, they don't have to deal with a lot of requests. They don't have to send multiple emails. They don't have to slide letters under your door when your rent's late. They can actually just send you a message, like that gets pushed through because you're in your apartment. So you can't say like, shoot, I didn't get that, I didn't see that. Like nah, we got you, bro. And then the cool thing is, yeah, people think that it's just like this broad thing, but we can get down into like, we need to send, our platform allows you to say like, we need to send Khalif this message about something specific to him, but also all of building 3, like the elevator is going to be out. So, but the people in building 2 don't really care about what's going on in building 3. They
Right.
only, care about what's going on and building 2, right? So just having that kind of functionality, but that was all built on like um, customers telling us what to build and not us building what we wanted to build because of our ego.
And I think that's so dope, that like the versatility of the technology, right? Because like you said, you can use it, with properties, but then you all partner with, South by Southwest this year, to use the, the NFC, tap, for
Yeah.
Black Future House. So like it's so versatile, and it's needed, and everybody has, their smartphone, with them. So like with it being proximity based, I think that it's only going to be able to, just continue to scale even greater.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, it's like we're always looking for a way to like cut through the noise when
Yep.
we want to do something. I mean, like, we go to conferences all the time, and me and you both, and like we're scrambling to find the email from Eventbrite
Right.
to get into this spot where we need that email from Eventbrite. But it's like, when I had the opportunity to pitch it to Eventbrite, I was like, wouldn't it be cool if like you just could show, like if I was just a person and I registered, I just showed up and it got pushed to the it got pushed to the top of, like it got pushed to the top of my phone, like wherever that is, whether it's text message or email or whatever, like that notification got pushed to the top that like, hey, like this is the Eventbrite event, for such and such, that. So I think, that play is where we're going to be able to live like in the conference and events for like a long time because that's where I think being able to cut through that noise is important. And then also, I'm gonna say this with Eventbrite starting to charge people for everything. Like, I think we're gonna be a valuable tool for folks who are looking to do registrations and kind of looking to leave that Eventbrite setting.
Yep. No, for sure. Definitely, streamline the process, make it more efficient, and you off and run it. So you've been a tech entrepreneur for a while now. You've seen a lot. We've had you as a, instructor, as a mentor, as a guest speaker, for our blueprint program, with the work that we do with, tech startups. So I'm curious as to what's your take on the current state of the tech ecosystem?
Uh, I think it's really weird, like looking at like all of this. I call it the post George Floyd. We were able to leverage a lot of capital out of the one of the legacies of George Floyd that on the positive side was going to be the the capital that we were able to leverage from institutions. Um, and it's sad because one death, it takes the death of an unarmed black man, that gets this kind of national attention, even though unarmed black men are being killed like every day. I just read something today. So I think that money was, flooded into black tech, black business, black entrepreneurship, but still in ways that really were gatekeeping for black tech, black entrepreneurship. Like, we're gonna give these money to train you, but we're not gonna actually give you capital.
Mm.
Like that was like some weird, and that's what's always been done. Like, okay, we'll let black people train black people, but we're not gonna actually give them the money to invest. We're just gonna give them the money to, like train black people. And I tell people all the time, there's this thing that's like, oh, ask for advice and you'll get money, and ask for money and you'll get advice. And I'm like, but sometimes you ask for money and you get money.
Right.
And so I'm always gonna ask for money. I'll ask for advice and money, but I want money. And so I'm watching like the House of Cards from like George Floyd to the pandemic, like all of the Fugazis and like in the state of tech, like we look at how cryptocurrency is still weird. I'll use that term. And then the NFT world kind of like swindled a lot of people out of a lot of money, right? A lot of people who got NFTs and they're not. I can't even say the word of the paper that they're printed on because they're not even printed on paper. So you have all of these things that was kind of like a house of cards, and I think we're watching kind of the market correct itself, but we also watched funding to black founders decrease to one of its lowest levels ever. I've watched, some of my friends have to shut down their businesses. I watched some of my friends being, put out of their businesses because, bad deal structure on, how they, did different things with their board and all this other stuff. I watched, founder friends, leave their company because of, couldn't get a clear direction or vision. Like as the money dries out, the conversations become harder. And so they can't get clear path going forward or can't get aligned with their co-founders on like, how do you go forward or how do you move forward? So I think it's just been I think it's just been a weird last 2 years. Some of the folks that I thought were really going to make it did make it. Some of the folks that I thought weren't going to make it, they're making it. But at the end, I try to stay as positive as I can. I try to stay as hopeful as I can. But also, like I've been screaming this like from the top. Like we have to do collaborations with each other with money. And what I mean by that is like we want to do collaborations, but like we're asking someone to discount something to do something. Like instead of getting together and figuring out how do we get the money to where everybody can make the money that they need to make, like we're getting together and saying like, I can keep more of the money if I don't pay this person.
Yep.
Like instead of having the conversation of like, how do I pull everybody in? So instead of just getting $50,000, we can get $1 million, because there's like, we can do all of these things and not just some of these things or a part of these things. And I think that that's what I've actually been focusing on more as a tech founder, is that, like, a good example, like having the partnership with Black Future House for South by Southwest. Like that was a thing where it was like, okay, like if we do this, we can get more money and do more events and do more stuff. And it wasn't like, okay, you do this for free or you do this. Like it was really a conversation about how do we come together so that we get all of the money, so everybody gets paid and everybody feels good about what they brought there. And I think that's why I love finding out like what's going on with the blueprint and like what companies are there, because I'm always thinking about like, okay, things come across my desk all the time where I think we could do part of it, but we may need somebody else to do the other part of it.
Yep.
And the pot is not, let me give you something and then like or lowball you or anything like that. And I'm not saying that there's obviously there are people that don't do that, but obviously there are people that are. And I that's where I think we need the most, like how many people are bringing deals to each other to make to like that everybody wins off of, that everybody eats off of, like now, like with us having this really great tool for like apartments and real estate, like how do we leverage that and work with Black developers that are building things across the country? Like how do we do that, and how do we do that in a way where it impacts the bottom line for everybody? And so those are the types of partnerships that I think about, the collaborations that I'm thinking about. And that's where I think hopefully we move to in the state of Black tech, because we know we're not going to get the funding. We know we're not going to get, like you're going to have to work twice as hard. I was just telling you before we jumped on about how many times like every time I think I've cleared all the barriers, there's another barrier that might get put in front of me to access some capital that I have talked to other folks that they had none of these, like none of these barriers to entry. And I'm like, dang, like you didn't have to do that, you didn't have to do that. And I think the knowledge sharing in a non guru standpoint, like I'm not an internet guru, I'm not a tech guru, I'm not the smart, I'm not an expert. I don't think I'm an expert in anything. I'm finding my way just like everybody else. And I think that speaks back to, like, I was telling you, like I'm not anybody's big brother. Not anybody's, like, we are colleagues and we're trying to figure this stuff out together. And I need to lean and learn on you as well too. But I feel like in this space sometimes the Black folks want to be like the magical Negro, like they want to be Barack Obama. And I'm like, there's only one Barack Obama. Like, so like, but everybody wants to be the leader in the room. They want to walk in and be the leader in the room, and like their shit don't stink and like all that other stuff. And apologize for the swearing, but
That's all good.
it's like that type of mentality keeps us all from growing. And I'm never going to put out I'm never going to charge people for quote unquote coaching. I'm never gonna coach entrepreneurs and be like, hey, it's gonna cost you money to pick my brain, or I got a class or a ebook that I'm putting out that you gotta buy to figure out how to hack this stuff. And I'm like, nah, that's not gonna be my thing. Because like people, I hear the arguments that like, oh no, people shouldn't be able to pick like that. That costs to pick my brain. But I'm like, we are already talking about we don't have access to capital. So like how you take it, you can't take somebody's last and sell them and sell them the dream of like that's gonna put you over the top, because you're not being genuine about what those numbers and those stats really look like. And that really, that really grinds my gears. There's a couple folks that are doing like some of these, like equity crowdfunding campaigns, and they're going on and they like, they're using, WeFunder, Start Engine, all that other stuff. And they're just like telling Black people like, oh, invest in, like, you do your $250 investment, and it's like, it's gonna, you could, like, when this becomes a unicorn, you're gonna get generational wealth from that. but it's like they value the company, and like people don't know how to do revaluations and stuff like that. But if you value the company, if you're saying like you're investing in a company is valued at $100 million and you invest $250, even if that company becomes $1 billion company, that's a 10x multiple, right? So your $250 is only going to be 10x. Like, so you'll get, 250,000,
Right.
like $2,500 back, like $2,500, like that's not a huge, like that's not a huge, I mean, that's big for some people. Like that's a nice vacation or something like that. But you like look at what these valuations are and what you actually are going to own in the company when you have some of these crowdfunding campaigns, and and so I tell people like all the time, like I get it. Sometimes the community gotta fund some things, but like also like let's not scam our people.
Yep.
Like let's not real estate scam our people. Let's not tech invest scam our people. Let's not NFT scam our people. Let's not crypto coin, scam our people, scam our people. Like let's just be honest with them about what it is. And if they want to invest, they invest. But like the honesty is the part of it. And one thing I never sell to anybody that invests in LifeTagger, I never tell them that like this is gonna be your ticket to out of poverty.
Right.
At best we become a unicorn billion-dollar company. At worst, or at the best possibility is that we're probably gonna get acquired by some company who wants the technology, and that may look like a $200 million exit. But if you invested 25,000 at a $5 million valuation, and it gets to 100 million, then you're gonna 20x that, 20x that money, right? So like whatever the numbers is, and like just be realistic with people about that. um no, there's no get rich quick in tech. Like people don't know this. Like we started the company back in like we started working on this in 2014, 2015. We didn't get our first investment until 2019.
Right.
We're closing around next month, and that it's 5 years later, right? So the arc of like 10 years, and for companies like Uber and companies like Facebook and all this other stuff, like Uber just probably turned a profit this year, and you know how long Uber's been around and how much money Uber went and IPO'd already. But as a company, they're just starting to turn a profit. So like that's crazy. Like people don't think about like that part of like the business. But I thank social media for all the good. Thank social media for all the bad too.
Yeah. No, facts. And I think you brought up a good point. It's just like entrepreneurs are such a vulnerable demographic, right? And you see so many individuals, I'll put air quotes and mentors and like, coaches that ultimately prey on on this demographic because they see the opportunity or the potential, within these startups, within these founders. So it's like, okay, yeah, I'll mentor you, but like some mentors have ill intentions. Some are good. Some, some of these accelerators or incubators or cultivators, however you want to, frame it, like some have good intentions, some don't. But I think what's at least what I've been seeing a lot in the Milwaukee tech ecosystem is we have to embrace more collaboration over competition. And
Right.
a lot of it has to do with just how the systems and the powers that be, how they uh portray or kind of put out the funding. Because
Right.
just like startups, like the companies that are putting on the programming for the startups, they need funding too. So it's like, okay,
Right.
here's this $350,000 grant to put on this, this program, but there's only one of them for this area. So now you got three or four
Yeah.
organizations that are competing for it, and it just becomes, it gets it messy. It gets it real messy.
Right. And I think, and to that point, the conversation should be like the three organizations should come together and say, hey, we can go ask for $1 million
Yeah.
because we're all going to work together and serve these X number more of businesses, and we're gonna capitalize. Like one thing I loved about the Blueprint program, it's like y'all put cash in people's pockets. And I would come on and talk to those entrepreneurs, and I'd be like, look, if at any point in my entrepreneurial journey I could, do a 6-week boot camp or a 10-week boot camp, and somebody's gonna give me $25,000, like, man, sign me up, right? Like equity free, sign
Equity
me
free.
up right now. And I'll sit through the classes. Like, and I tell people all the time, like, I would do if I would do and people think I'm weird. I would do an accelerator to this day. Sometimes I joke with people like, yo, we out of the accelerator phase. But sometimes it's really good if you don't have a great set of mentors to have people outside of your organization look at your business and dissect your business,
Yep.
or give you like tools to get better at your business.
Yep.
And so like if it's the right one, and I think I can get some tools that'll get me better at my business, that like actually makes me work on my business sometimes and in my business sometimes, like just working on the business is working in the business, right? Like, so sometimes like those tools, and like my compensation for that time might be $100,000. Like the first accelerator that we did, like the accelerator, like they invested $100,000 in the company, and at that time in my mind, like 6 figure, like $100,000, like being wired to a bank account for you to look at. Like you couldn't tell me that wasn't like, I had seen 5 figures in a bank account. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, but that 6 figure, like that was a new phenomenon. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that didn't hit until like 2019 going into 2020. Like, okay, our business bank account got 6 figures in it. Oh snap! Like we own something. Um, so yeah, but I think we don't think about it that way. And I am constantly searching for opportunities. And every time I get an opportunity, I'm like, man, look, this might be good for this person. Here's the piece that we want to do on it. Like we can go get these contracts, we can go get these things if we are able to kind of one of my friends talked about like sometimes you got to assemble Voltron.
Mm.
You got the 5 lions that are running. I'm saying my age right now, like I'm in my 40s, so Voltron. But like sometimes if you can get the 5 lions to all come together and form Voltron, it's like then you could save the world, right?
Yep.
And but there should be many Voltrons. Like there should be many instances of Voltrons happening and in our communities, and we're getting together to save the world. And and then I'm super encouraged. Like there's some people that I really think are going to do some good, that are headed that are getting into venture capital and kind of shaking up the tables in venture capital. I want to give a shout out to my good friend Kelly Solney and her team at Corridor Ventures. Like I feel like what they're about to do in the venture game is going to be top tier, and um, I want to send her a shout out because the things that she's helped me with in this portion of my fundraise has been kind of like really helpful, super helpful. So yeah, shout out. Shout out Chris Red too. Chris Red, Wisconsin, Milwaukee native.
Yeah. Rufus King
Shout
alum.
out him. Like that's where I go for a lot of I'm really thankful to have met him, become good friends with him, because there's a lot of what he talks about. He's really smart about a lot of stuff when it comes to venture and structuring deals. So that's sort of the phase we are at in our life. Be on the lookout into June. Some major announcements coming from us from that forefront. I'm keeping it kind of quiet right now. Obviously keeping it kind of quiet because I'm cautiously optimistic, because people don't know. Like you can have all the paperwork and the term sheets and all that other stuff, but until that money hits your account, it's not real. And even in the term sheets, it'll say until that money hits your account, none of this is real. So until the money hits my account, it's not real, and I'm just gonna leave it at that.
All right, bet. I got one more question, and then we're gonna do some quick hitters. So I'm curious, bro. Like, I mean, obviously I know you really well, but like when you're not building a successful tech company, like what do you do? Like what do you do for fun? Like to keep yourself sane?
That's so, bro. That's so funny. My best friend called me the other day, and we were talking about that because this is a very stressful time. Like, some of the things that are going on personally,
Yep. Yep.
in my family dynamic, and then put that on the backdrop of like still trying to like do sales and be like one of the chief salespeople for my company, but also trying to sell us as an investment. So it's a lot of things going on. And he asked me, he was like, bro, what are you doing for fun right now? Because he was like, and I was like, man, he was like, do you have a hobby? And I started thinking about it. And I'm like, dang, do I have a hobby? So I'm gonna say, like, I felt played when he said that because like I couldn't really think of that. But I'm like, yo, like right now, like I am very much into finding beers that I've never tried before, whether at local breweries, wherever I can find them, and trying to be the biggest beer snob that I could be. So that's something that like I do enjoy. Um, and I'm based in the Memphis area right now, so it's actually a lot of different places to go. So, I do a lot of beer tasting. Obviously, I was a Memphis Grizzlies season ticket holder. Now this season didn't go the way that we wanted it to go, but that's something like going to sporting events. That's something I always love to do. This is we got the NBA is winding down, but obviously, college football season, like I'm going to try to get in as many stadiums as I can in the fall. And so like those are the things that like really bring me. And I've actually really found my love for reading again, man.
Mm.
And so, I've just been reading some things, like I reread Witness to the Truth, a book about our grandfather. So I reread that recently. Been deep into like reading some James Baldwin stuff, and I just got Bakari Sellers' new book. I'd have to go right. I don't know the title off the top of my head, but Bakari Sellers just dropped a new book, and it's really talking about um the missed opportunity after George Floyd,
Mm.
that the country had this missed opportunity. Like we tried, and then but we really still missed the opportunity or missed the moment after George Floyd. And especially now thinking about it, how many years has it been after George Floyd? Like almost 5 years after George Floyd now. Like we really missed that. We really missed that moment. And we've actually kind of like reverted back. So like those are the things like that love for reading that just hit, which is really cool because I keep track of how much time I spend on social,
Mhm.
and it's been decreasing every week for like I want to say like the last 2 or 3 months.
Oh, that's dope.
And so so less time in front the screen, more time in front of doing things that I don't want to say that matter or that give me some peace.
I love it. I love it, dog. All right, we got five. I got five this or that questions.
Okay.
All right. So
Shit.
I know we've gone to a number of these events together, and I know you go to a number of events, just separately, conferences, conventions. So Afrotech or South by Southwest?
It's South by Southwest, man.
Okay. All right. All right. Kobe or
I'm sorry.
LeBron? Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. What you want to
No,
explain
I'm
it?
sorry. I'm sorry that it's South by Southwest.
It's South.
No,
Yeah,
no,
I agree.
yeah,
I agree.
no answers are buts.
I agree. All right. Kobe or LeBron?
Uh, I'm going to say I'm going to say Kobe.
Okay.
But it's for non-basketball reasons.
Hmm.
I I I actually love the way Kobe follows his passion, like how he just followed his passions around what was important to him after he got through playing. Like it wasn't all about just being a successful business or a brand. Like Kobe just did the things that he liked. Like I made my money. I have more than enough money. I have my business dealings, but I'm coaching my daughter's basketball team.
Yo,
I'm going to, put women's basketball, like center women's basketball, like things that he was just passionate about. Like, and I don't know if
do
LeBron's
short
not passionate,
films.
but look, yeah,
Yeah,
LeBron feels very much like everything has to be this manicured, like, has to be this perfect. Like I'm never I can't ever put out anything that looks ugly that, or like, LeBron doesn't have, no ugly babies in business. Everything is polished and like, and then with Kobe, it was just like, man, look, I'm gonna put out this short film. Y'all like it, y'all like it, y'all don't. I wanted to do it. So
right.
I did it.
Got you. Okay. And I love that you're in the shoe game now. I love it. I love that for you, dog. So Air Max 95s or Air Max 97s?
Ah, ha. Ooh. Uh, I'm gonna go. I'll go 97s, bro.
97s. All right. All right.
Yeah, I feel
If
like
you
I own. I feel like I own. I feel like I own more 97s than I own 95s.
That's fair. That's fair. Same here. If you could only sing or dance for the rest of your life, which one would it be?
Oh, hands down, it's singing because that's something I've wanted to do. I couldn't do it.
Hey, karaoke,
Oh, a
karaoke
hundred
king.
percent. Yeah, 100%. Like it's saying I could be the awkward two-step king, but if I got on that mic and I could blow, like man, look, nah, 100% every time on top. Like I choose singing every time.
All right. All right. Last one. I know you said you kind of getting away from it, but you're getting more into reading and whatnot. But I know you love your shows. You're an avid streamer. So Netflix or Hulu?
I mean, it's a this or that. I'll say Netflix because like there was a time where I would have picked Hulu hands down, but also I have a special connection with Netflix because I started using Netflix when they had like the internet. Like I want to say this was 2007. I started using Netflix,
Wow.
and Netflix launched a kind of like Netflix launched like a web thing where you could watch, you could watch movies on online.
Mhm.
And so it wasn't just, going and requesting the thing, but it was like all these foreign movies and old
Yep.
movies and stuff like that no one would ever like. You could get the new movies, but you had to like join the service and have them send you the DVD and do all that other stuff. But like I lived in at that time where I lived and it was like we barely had internet. Like we were stealing somebody's internet from we was using somebody else's Wi-Fi. And so we would log on to somebody else's Wi-Fi, and that's how we like I had a laptop and that's how I would watch shows. Stealing their internet, streaming. Like shout out to my next door neighbors, man. They were the goats. They didn't know how to protect their Wi-Fi. They didn't know how to password protect their Wi-Fi. That was goats.
Yeah. I love it, man. This been a special one for me, man. So KP, man, tell the people where they can reach you, where they can, find more information on LifeTagger, and just keep up with what y'all got going on, man.
Yeah, so you can obviously visit us at lifetagger.io. Um, Type that in www.lifetagger.io. At Lifetagger app on Instagram. But also find us on LinkedIn, Lifetagger on LinkedIn. And if you want to get at me personally, it's at KP Tagger on Instagram. Or first name Kendrick, last name Pullen on LinkedIn. You can connect with me there. Those are the places that you're gonna find me semi-active online. But yeah, and just stay tuned because like uh, as they say, we hopefully my mantra again this year is we all go up together. So anybody looking to collaborate and do some work and find projects that all of us can eat on, as they say, as Ace Boogie said and Paid in Full, man, everybody eats. And if that's not your mantra, don't add me. Don't find me if your mantra isn't everybody eats. But equitably, everybody's gonna eat. Everybody gonna get full. Nobody just getting scraps over here.
And there we have it, man. Another episode of Leaf with the Legends podcast with a Louisiana legend, a tech founder, co-founder of LifeTagger, man, my cousin KP, man, Kendrick Pullen. Thanks for pulling up to the podcast, man.
Yeah, shout out to Baton Rouge, Deuce and the Quarter. What's happening?
All right. As always, be legendary or be lost. Peace.